Hey guys, how are we doing today? So I've been realizing a few things as of late that I think is a little bit interesting. I think I've tried to voice this in different episodes before, but I don't think I haven't really quite got back to the crux of what I'm trying to say. And jazz has become such a dominant part of my landscape. It's become such a dominant part of what I listen to. And I have a huge collection of stuff outside of jazz, from industrial to metal to classic rock to 50s rock to old country, all kinds of soul, funk, R&B, thousands of hip hop records. I got a lot of 80s alternative stuff. I got a lot of music besides my jazz. My jazz is less than half of my collection, and yet I listen to jazz 95% of the time. And there's various reasons for that. One, as I matured, jazz seems to fit my color scheme, my mood, just the atmosphere of the room I'm in, and the overlying color of my soundtrack. Jazz often fits that pretty well. But there's a bigger factor. And I've been listening with my kids some interesting stuff the last few days. Just kind of trying to show them some stuff from my childhood, my teenage 20-year-old years. A band called Skinny Puppy out of Vancouver, Canada. Industrial, innovative, very socially conscious, political, very anti-Bush administration at the time, anti-war, anti-animal testing, environmental degradation. They're a very conscious group. It's very dark, very. It's enlightened, but it's heavy. You know, it's a hard listen. It's spooky. It's their live shows were filled with crazy graphic video footage of awful things, drawing attention to them. You know, Metallica, a band I loved a lot as a high school kid. These early records have become kind of classics now, but people forget how unknown they were at the time. You know, it wasn't really until the Black Album and Justice for All, maybe, where the average person started to know. Slayer, to me, has actually stood the test of time better, in part because of their message to me. Like Skinny Puppy, Slayer has a lot of things to say about war, ganglands, socially conscious stuff. But like Skinny Puppy, it's more being an observer of injustice than the participant or victim of injustice. Here's another Slayer record. It came out right around 9/11. God hates us all. I know he fucking hates me, he says. Some heavy, dark stuff. And I showed it to my kids. And then I started to play this record by Pantera, which was one of my favorite groups in the early 90s. Saw them live 3 times. Used to love jamming to them. They're a mix of the blues, Van Halen guitar, virtuosity, ZZ Top, Texas drunk, partying, just incredible pockets, slower tempos. They groove hard. And the problem is with a band like Pantera is when I go back and listen to it, there's an angst, there's a victim mentality, there's the lyrics I have a hard time relating to. And I can relate to Skinny Puppy better and Slayer better still today than I can to what Pantera, what Philip Anselmo's talking about. There's a woe is me to his kind of delivery and anger and anxiety, the whining of the decadent, you know what I'm saying? The ruling elite talking about how tough it is that their caviar ain't cold enough. It's, at some point, jazz connected with me on such a strong level because of my political leanings, my social understandings, and my philosophies all told me that this comes from the voice of the oppressed. And instead of me hearing some white guys talk about the oppressed, or hearing some white guys complain about how oppressed they think they are. I was actually hearing the outpouring of the people who were actually oppressed. And I think for me, more than anything else, why I can listen to jazz so often and have a hard time listening to other genres for the most part is this doesn't conflict with my beliefs. It doesn't conflict with my understanding of the world we live in. I don't feel, I have a hard time with words. Words are full of shit. I said, like, I Slayer's Guinea Pig, at least I like what their words say. Rage Against the Machine, I like what their words say. For me, Bob Marley, if I need words, Bob Marley's as go-to as there is. He's very edifying for me. But I find myself listening. My son's always trying to show me stuff, and I feel bad. But I just don't care what some 18-year-old thinks. Not my son, but the music he's trying to show me. The mental wanderings of an 18-year-old doesn't do much to spark my consciousness. I don't really get inspired by hearing some kid and his anxiety about his pimple population and how he can't get a nut. It's a troubled generation, say no question, but it's trouble from a place of decadence, from a place of posh dominance, and there's a heavy weight that comes with the crown. When you become the top of the hill, subconsciously we recognize the weight of those we are holding down for me to live up here. And so white people do have a burden, and it comes across in a lot of the anxiety and tension in white music, but it doesn't change the fact that for me, hearing a Kurt Cobain or a Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, who's the new chick, and I like some of the music, some of the production's great, but there's a philosophy, there's a consciousness to it that I have a hard time affiliating myself with. But when I hear a guy like Art Blakey with Hank Mobley and Bobby Timmons and Lee Morgan pour their souls into a live concert, it's aligned with all my philosophies, with all my understandings, with all my consciousness. It doesn't offend me. It doesn't, I can't listen to this right now. It doesn't, it's that's drawn me to jazz and made me so compulsed by it. It fits with my beliefs. It fits with what I understand. It fits with how I see the world. And being raised by evangelical parents, understanding the children of Israel and their plight and their hundreds of years of oppression, that's what led them to say, the Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want. It's when you're not free, you can quantify what freedom means, which is something I've said many times. And so the black musician, especially in this era, and even with the black musician, once words come into play, Curtis and Marvin and Stevie, those guys kind of keep it straight. But once you start getting into the hip-hop era, there's a boasting and a fake. I don't need to hear most rappers talk. What they have to say doesn't really enlighten me, inspire me, edify me. But when I listen to these guys, I'm able to place myself in that time frame and recognize that these guys were the victims of an incredible centuries of injustice. And it's that understanding of the world's economic systems and how we hold so many down to hold a few up, and recognizing that these people were on the bottom for centuries, and it's what fuels the art, it's what fuels the passion. And I love a lot of great white jazz players, but I can never summon or connect or feel in my gut from even the greatest of white players what the black players are sometimes kicking me in the head saying. I don't think it's something even that people can debate. If you think that white and black jazz players are saying the same thing, your understanding of history is very poor. And I've said it many times, white players are just as good as playing, sometimes even better. Better instruments, better recording studios, better tours, better paying gigs. The white guys did it well. But what the black hats had to say is something that my soul, my spirit, my consciousness, my politics, my philosophy, it's all aligned with that. And so when I put on some hip hop and listen to some ignorant shit come out of a guy's mouth, or I put on some rock and hear some guy being angry for how woe is me his life has become, it's hard for me to, and I can't stay in that headspace too long. I can't muster much empathy for you. I just don't got it. Your daddy sucked. It's surmountable. It's not to say white people don't have struggle. They certainly do. And like I said, guys like Rage Against the Machine, Skinny Puppy, Slayer, there's bands that definitely have said very poignant, powerful things that do align with my philosophies and politics. But jazz, both sonically, emotionally, spiritually, philosophically, it's so in tune with my state of mind, where I'm at in my life as a 48-year-old male, as a Canadian living in America, as a human earthling, trying to comprehend reality and trying to forget society. The opposite of the society we're born into is the reality of all things. Society is but one slice, one way of doing things. And history tells us that there's infinite ways it's been done. And that reality encompasses all those things. And so reality is so much broader than what my society encompasses. And yet for so many of us, we live with a label placed on us at birth by our society and allow it to define us. And we'll wave that flag and we'll pray that direction and we'll sexually be that person and we'll be so controlled by the stipulations that society places on us. And the whinings and moanings of the decadent, I can't hear you. I certainly don't feel you. And reality is so much greater. Reality is this entire history of the human migration. The Chinese, the Egyptians, the Russians, the English, the ancient Indians, the Sumerians. You take all these cultures. That's my heritage. That's my definition of who I am. Human earthling is all I'm sure of. Beyond that, the definitions become very sparse. And most of what's placed on me at birth, you gotta peel those labels off and discard them and go with what you're sure of. Human earthling. That's it. And therefore, my reality makes me part of a much broader consciousness. And it broadens my empathy for so many more of my human brethren than the limitations that my society would dictate. Society would have me being concerned about my family, my community, my tribe, my religion, and after that it's like, well, your God doesn't love you. My God loves me. And there's a broadness of reality that stipulates to me, okay, that can't be how things are. It just can't. There has to be a much bigger definition of who we are. And there's a conscious effort by those who control the media to prevent us from ever seeing that unity. And that point needs to be made clear and driven home day after day after day. Because when you watch all the narrative that unfolds, its underlying agenda is to keep outrage and divide strong. And they find ways to outrage people. They find ways to portray every story with such a slant to it that people have to go to one side or the other. And I don't believe much of what I see. I don't believe much of what I hear. I only believe what I can feel. And the way we've politicized this virus in this country, that's fucked up. It's wrong. It's not right. I don't know. I don't know the origins. I don't know the details. But I have a feeling my kids' generation will grow up and be like, wow, some powerful infrastructure manipulated this thing, whether it's to change the outcome of elections here, change the direction of national economics. Maybe there's powers that be in the global economic field that don't want to see this current president pushing nationalism again. They've already worked so hard to create this global economy, and I don't know, you know. But what I do know is that history tells me the rich are meddling. The rich are behind. And there's clear evidence of the power the Rothschilds had. You know, there's clear evidence of the power J.P. Morgan's had. There's clear evidence of all the different robber barons, how much political power they curried. And if that was the case then, the wealth is more concentrated now. The media is 10 times more powerful now. Social media has become this incredible machine of propaganda and lies and outrage. And something's wrong. My soul tells me that. My heart tells me that. And seeing how the rest of the world's dealt with it, and whoever these powers are, they have the power to do this thing globally. That's not a question. There's only one group that can do that. Nations are all being reactionary. They're all reacting to what's happening. They're not creating or driving this thing. And if somebody else has artificially created it, or even just manipulated the news to keep it sensationalized and polarized and to allow it to divide this country even further, that's obviously happened. We've obviously become polarized in America over this thing. That's got to tell us something. It's got to tell us something, that there's someone shaping a narrative that's preventing us from seeing the same side of the coin. They want us just at each other's throats. And so, that being said, it's just pretty clear to me that jazz for me is something I can listen to day after day after day, and especially the black stuff. I put on the white stuff sometimes, but it doesn't connect with me the same way. But when I put on the black artists, especially of the 40s, 50s, into the 60s, it's just aligned with what my philosophy, my sociology, my DNA tells me. Yeah, I can listen to what your soul has to tell me. And because it's not even words to most of this stuff, I know you're not lying. You're pouring your soul into your horn, expressing your experience. It's something genuine, it's something honest, and that's hard to find in this world today. And when I listen to words, when I listen to pop, I listen to rock, it's hard to find integrity. It's hard to find honesty. It's hard to find somebody whose message aligns with your own philosophies. And part of my problem is a guy like Pantera and Philip Anselmo. I've heard him raving online and on interviews in the last 10 years about some crazy political shit that I'm like, I can't believe I like your music so much. You're kind of an idiot. The guys from Korn, I heard Jonathan Davis on that crazy right-wing conspiracy guy, Alec Jones, and he was on there conspiring with him. And like, okay, I'm done listening to Korn. When people's philosophy and belief systems don't jive with your own, it becomes hard for you to spend time in their company. Whether it's, even when it's a musician whose stuff you used to like. And I find myself very much detached from a lot of the rock and roll I used to digest, because it doesn't coincide with my belief systems, or it's just the whining of the decadent. You have a silver spoon in your mouth and you're crying because your caviar ain't the right temperature. I have a hard time mustering too much empathy for that. Just do. We're gonna find our way through this. I can't wait to get back DJing. It's been 6 months now almost. I'm starting to really miss it. I'm starting to miss having a room full of people and looking around and saying to myself, what would be the perfect song to play for these people right now at this moment? Oh, let's give them a little bit of that. You know, I'm looking around and just feeling and trying to create some fun, some buzz, some energy, some joy. And the fun you get from playing a song like The Foundation's Buttercup. People have a few mimosas in them, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, they're all singing along. You're bringing joy to them. Music is supposed to do that. And a lot of the negative, hate-filled, white angst music, the depressed teen, suicidal, grim outlook of today's kids' music, I can't. The things rappers talk about today, ice and diamonds and Lamborghini. I don't want a Lamborghini. I don't give a fuck about a Lamborghini. I want truth. Lamborghini ain't gonna give me no truth or understanding. And truth and understanding is peace of mind, and that's what helps me sleep at night. I want to know that whatever the purpose and meaning in life is, I'm on the path trying to find that. A Lambo ain't gonna take me there. A Rari ain't gonna get me to enlightenment. In fact, from everything the shamans and the monks tell us, the more of that shit you have, the further you get away from the mountain. And the less introspection you have, things blind us, deceive us. And so, like, my possessions really is my music collection, which is my religion. It's what I spend my time investing in, both my time and my money. And it's where I get my prayer from, my meditation, my confirmation of my sociology, my understanding of history, my understanding of reality. And reality is the black experience was one so filled with sorrow and tyranny that the music they make, for me, it's the Lord is my shepherd. It soothes me. It calms me. It eases my anxiety, my fear. My wife works in a homeless shelter. This virus thing's been going on. I worry about her a lot. Anxiety, sitting here at home, doing the dinner, cooking the food, doing the laundry, you know what I mean? And I worry. I got 2 kids that want to go have a social life, and how much do I let them go out? It's tough being a parent right now. And so jazz for me is calming. It's soothing. It centers me. It says people who struggled much greater than I found joy, found purpose, found meaning in life, and celebrated it. They were overjoyed to have the chance to share their joy, their passion, their life, their fire. And so I think that's what I'm trying to encapsulate here, is that when you recognize that this music aligns with your philosophy and your sociology and politics, it makes it a very easy place for me to occupy and stay. And also, there's a reason why the avant-garde doesn't connect with me as much. It's less of a personal, it's more of a personal story and less about the struggle of my people. And the blues is that storytelling, that gut-wrenching expression of, I need to survive somehow. I feel a little better now that I can kick this out of my guitar. See what I'm saying? And there's just a power that comes from that. And I don't get it the same from some of the edgier composed avant-garde stuff. Even though I love some of it, it doesn't speak to me the same way or comfort me the same way as something just straight bluesy, gutsy, minimal composition, minimal arrangement, but just a lot of great improvisation, a lot of great emoting. And that's one of the reasons why Art Blakey is the greatest of all time, especially in the modern era. His bands were always these hurricanes of honest black emotion. And there's no frivolousness, there's no pretension, there's no sketches of Spain commercialization. It's just straight shots to the gut. It's survival music. And it's no secret that when modern art came about, it doesn't tell a story, and there was a kind of a right-wing conservative agenda that was fine with people liking that art, because it didn't tell or teach us empathy for a group of people. It was actually very impersonal. And I feel like the avant-garde has that same role in a lot of ways. It's very much no longer speaking for the people. It's no longer creating empathy. And there's a group that are more tolerant of that. But the straight blues, it's a very social, conscious, liberal thing. And it's not even a left and right thing. And one thing Americans often seem to forget is left and right are supposed to be fiscal expressions. They're supposed to be an expression of financial determination, not social. And my social leanings are very left when it comes to social values and the rights and the personage of all people. And as far as the economic side of it goes, I don't think we can make anything work until we handle our greed on some level. You know, greed and violence are such a dictating force, and they create so much of the oppression. It's hard for me to comprehend at times. But anyway, I listened to some crazy metal last night. My buddy, we listened to Black Sabbath with my kids and his friend. We were listening to some, like I said, Pantera, Skinny Puppy, Nine Inch Nails, The Ministry. We went through some fun stuff. Just wanted to show it to them. And they're so used to me hearing jazz, they're surprised I even listened to that stuff. And I did. I was a metal drummer for years. But it's hard for me to get back in that head frame. It's hard for me to feel the rantings and lunacy of a privileged white kid complaining. And I just can't spend much time there. And it's why jazz is part of my daily routine as much as it is. It's basically just like going to church. It's right in my belief system. It's the voice of the oppressed, and the oppressed have the power. The oppressed have the microphone. Those who aren't oppressed get to write the rules, get to make the laws. Those who don't get to make laws get to make art about how much those laws suck. How much this injustice is incredibly burdensome. That being said, I appreciate you all. I just wanted to share that today. I do like to go back and be nostalgic about music from my childhood at times, but I certainly don't connect with it like I once did. And hearing even Philip Anselmo from Pantera singing some of those tracks last night, like I'm Broken and 5 Minutes Alone, it's like, do you even know what you're so angry about? Like, there's people who got it a lot worse, buddy, you know. And he had pain. He had a bad alcohol problem and drug addiction for some back pains that he was having. But did your brother get lynched lately? Did your sister get beat by cops last night? Like, there's a different anxiety and terror that comes from the daily experience of a black man in the 40s and 50s that a white guy on his worst day could never understand. That's not to say that whites haven't been the oppressed in history in places. This isn't a color thing. It just happens to be in black and white in our current historical makeup. I'm going to let you go for now. 1959 is coming probably tomorrow. I'll give you part 1 on that. 59 is an incredible year. We all know some of the landmark recordings that happened, but there's some other real changes and fluctuations happening in the music. There's some labels that show up on the scene, 59, and there's some other labels that are really descending and are going to be no longer part of the scene very shortly. I'd like to do a graph, actually, showing the rise and fall of all these different labels from 45 to 1965. But I'm not really good with computers, so if anybody has the inkling to help me with this, I'll give you the data, and you need to plot it on this chart for me so we can look at the intervals when each label kind of comes to its peak pinnacle of influence and importance, and its most innovative, its most most important records in the canon, and when the record label kind of diminishes, it's ascending. It'd be fun to see when each label had its moment. You know, Bethlehem's 54, 55, 56. Blue Note to me is 56, 57, 58. You know, each label has these moments where they're really at the top of the game, and other labels come and go. It's a constant transition, and it's hard to get that scope from today's 70 years ago vantage point. But having the discographies, I can show you that stuff. So if anybody wants to help me put that together, I'd be interested in helping you do it. Y'all be safe. Talk to y'all soon. Peace.